So, do you like my new friend? This is the second time I have run across a snake shedding its skin and just missed it in such a brief amount of time. I never have actually caught it shedding its skin, but this is like twice in 1 week I've caught them within a few hours. So maybe someday before I leave here I will catch one in the act. But that is not what we're here to talk about today, but I like the transition of shedding our skin. And so this video today is not just for women, but it's mostly talking to you as women about hair, clothing, and the statement that I made not too long ago, rethinking. It's not really just survival, it's really safety and security in this incredibly dynamic moment of time. So this is just going to be some practical stuff that I am going to be doing a little bit differently. It's an issue for me because I'm going to be downsizing, and so that's why I've been thinking about it. I thought I would pass that on to you, see if you can use any of it. So with that, we're going to take a deep breath, and I will see you on the other side without the snake.
I need my soul to scream out.
So one of the great ironies is, even though I have more space in my trailer, I have less space in my trailer to bring things with me. And so you see me make quite a few videos over the years about my issues with stuff, with simplicity, really thinking about clothes from a survival perspective. And the way I have always in the past categorized it is park, which means you live one place and you have a closet, right? So that's less of an issue. Drive, which is really that nomad RV, small space, but you're in motion, life is normal. Just walk away, which is refugee, who knows, natural disaster, something like that, so that you actually can only take with you what you can carry. But the one I wanted to add today is, I don't know if we should call it run or what we'll call it, but what if things get really scary? And part of what's come up for me is an awareness of my own vulnerabilities. And I talked in another video about how weakness attracts weakness. So the last thing I want to do is project a fragile, weak kind of energy or character. And the reality is I can't take very much stuff with me. And I don't know what the future holds for me. So I've had to be very strategic in my thinking. And while still evaluating, I wanted to just touch on a few things that I've made decisions about and why. And so we're going to start with the most obvious. It's not as bad now that it's not sticking up every which way. There's less humidity. But for those of you who've watched me for a while, I've always had long hair. I've only had short hair twice, and the last time I swore I would never do it again. That's just a personal thing. It doesn't feel good to me. I just don't like it. And so the fact that I would cut my hair short is, to me, is a commitment to being aware of what's happening. And so the most critical piece of all of this is not to make decisions because you're afraid. There's two components to my decision making. There's the intuition, the guidance, what I hear, and then just a very practical aspect about what's going on around us. And like it or not, things are different. And when I say different, I don't like to watch a lot of these videos. I don't like to plant these images in my mind, but I don't know how you can avoid them 100% about people just getting sucker punched. And it's really concerning about not being able to just go to the store and not have to think about these kinds of things. And so I have gotten the guidance that I need to think about these kinds of things. And so the biggest reason I cut my hair short was, especially with a baseball cap, is there's nothing to grab. Long hair, ponytails, things like that. Very easy to grab. Shorter hair is easier for me to manage with less water. Huge difference in terms of washing my hair. But the other aspect of it is what I shared before, is because I'm tall, it's also to project much more of a masculine image if you're just glancing. There seems to be a need to prey on people who look disabled and older women. And so I don't want to go gray. I don't want to have a soft, feminine, older woman look. I don't want to be grabbed. I want something that's practical if things go super chaotic fast. And anybody who's got long hair and you haven't washed it for more than a week, mine gets heavy, it gets dirty, it collects a lot of dirt in it. It's just gross. Gives me a headache. It's very uncomfortable. So we all have different hair, but I know mine, and that's one of the reasons why I'm choosing to do this right now, for some very practical reasons. So I don't want to be grabbed. I want to be able to try to minimize the gray. I want to also, and when I say that, is that one box of dye would never cover my whole head. So I'm not very gray, but who knows how long this is all going to last for. And so this was just a decision, and that really is translating all the way down. And one of the things that you'll almost always find me in are men's shirts. And the reason I wear men's shirts so much is that it is so dirty out here. I get so dirty. All my clothes get ripped up. The dirt just embeds. It's impossible to get clean. So I just try to buy really cheap shirts, wear them out, and move on. And that happens at a very fast pace. And so, because I'm lazy, I make my videos in those too. But there's something really bad about oversized men's shirts, and that is all this extra material that makes it easy to grab you. And so there's two pieces to that. One is loose, bulky clothing, while it does create a more androgynous, frumpy look, it is not conducive to getting away quickly. There's so much more to grab and hold on to. And what's really also more important with that is that it's easy to catch on things, which is one of the reasons why I buy cheap clothes, is because of all the metal and the wood and the barbed wire and all the things that rip my clothes. And when I'm just around the cow farm, who cares? But in an emergency situation, I don't want my clothing catching on anything. But I also don't want soft knit t-shirt material, because that is the least practical form of material. You want a tougher, more canvasy kind of feel. And because this one is smaller, I don't think you can see it, it's more fitted, so it would be much more easy for me to alter it. But the other component, and this is one of the reasons I wear so many men's clothing, is that women's clothing is not designed to function, it's designed for fashion. And over time, what I've found is you don't want restriction of movement. You don't want restriction in your pants. You don't want restriction in your arms, in your knees, and being able to squat, to get up, to move quickly. If there's too much constriction, so it's kind of a balance between something being fitted enough that somebody can't immediately grab you, but also it needs to have enough flexibility in it to allow for you to maneuver quickly and easily. The second component of that is obviously dark colors. They go a much further distance in terms of dirt and wear, which I know a lot about, but also at night you don't want to be reflecting. And so these are things that just aren't exciting, and 100% you probably won't have to use them, but if you're like me and you can only choose a few things to take with you, these are the decision-making processes I'm going through. So moving down into feet and pants, what I'll say about pants is that if we do go into a bad situation and food is scarce, you're going to lose a lot of weight fast. And so your clothing needs to adapt to a fast weight loss, which means that if you have elastic around your waist and you lose a lot of weight, your pants are just going to fall down. If you have a belt, you need a way to notch it so that you can continuously tighten that belt loop. I know we as Americans spend so much time trying to lose weight because we have so much food, but you will be shocked in a crisis or a chaotic situation because you're burning so many calories from stress, how fast you're going to lose weight. And so your comfortably fitted clothing is going to get a lot looser. So just something to bear in mind, that you want that flexibility with your clothing. You don't want your pants falling down. You need a way to tie them up. I personally prefer drawstring. As women, we go to the bathroom more, and I find the whole leather belt buckle thing a lot more time intensive. Which brings me to our feet and our shoes. And you've heard me in the past talk about my walkaway outfit and what kinds of shoes. Well, the most important thing is that they're comfortable enough to walk long distances, that you can run in them, even if it's just for a short distance, that you can jump and land on them without breaking a heel. You want your foot covered, and you want your foot waterproofed if at all possible. And you know, there's no shoes that hold up over time. In my experience, they all kind of break down. But in a long-term situation, you want a shoe that can be repaired, that can be resoled or resewn. So you don't want anything that's actually glued. Moving back up, I find what's really important in the bright sun, as you see, I wear a lot of hats. Well, part of that is keeping your hair flat and also disguising if you have gray, in addition to making it a little more difficult to tell if you're male or female. Part of that is also posture and presence and how you're physically designed. So that's individual for each of us. You also notice I wear a lot of scarves, and that's a really important way to face cover, separate from masks, cover up so that you're not seen with your reflection of the light, and just a way to kind of hide. So one of the things that was important for me to get was they have the you know, the scarves that you see that are Middle Eastern scarf. They have a larger size, and so I got an all black larger size because that also multitasks as a skirt, as a dress, as a bag. There's a million things you can do with it. So that is important. The other really important thing is for women is jewelry. You don't want anything that's going to catch, and you don't want anything that's going to call attention to. I still remember walking down the street. Don't remember how old I was, don't remember where I was, don't remember what I was wearing, don't remember the guy that was walking next to me. I remember the necklace, and I remember the way he was looking at it, and I could feel him deciding whether he wanted to grab it and go. So not only is it a chokehold if it's a heavier chain, it's also an attraction. It reflects light, like little tiny glints of light. It reflects light. It's an announcement if you might be carrying something of value. Even though these are fake, you just never know. If you've got big rocks in your ears, people don't know what's real and what's not real. You know, anything on your fingers. You don't want anything that's going to attract attention to yourself if you are in an emergency crisis situation. Same thing with a purse. I know I was wearing fanny packs even though they weren't in fashion anymore because it's much easier to manage your important stuff when it's contained. Anything that goes over your back and that's exposed, it's very easy to either cut it and grab it or just lift out of it. If you have really important documents, paper, money, and things are really bad, I did this when I was backpacking in Europe. You want them down, or you want them in a little pack that goes inside your pants or some other kind of hidden compartment. You don't want them grabbable and accessible because it's really easy to grab. And this last piece I want to cover, because again, you know, this is all just something to think about, is, you know, that whole don't leave your house in dirty underwear thing that they talk about because you never know when you're going to get in an accident. We're in that kind of moment. I think one of the things that's really taken my breath away is towns that are not big cities having demonstrations on these freeways or roads in which they're stopping and harassing people. And what happens is if you go out and you're in your high heels and your pretty outfit, you're not going anywhere. And if you need to run, you are not dressed to go. And that's a judgment call, because obviously you cannot spend your entire life afraid of something that might happen someday. So my general rule of thumb, and I'll just pass that on to you, is once I move past my immediate home environment, meaning if I broke down, I could probably hitch a ride with somebody I knew, or I could easily walk back to where I live, I am less concerned about my clothing and my footwear. That escalates in practicality as the weather. If it's getting ready to snow, I don't want to be wearing lightweight canvas tennis shoes. I want to be wearing shoes. If I have to walk 5 miles, I got the right shoes on. The further I drive away from my home base, the more practical my clothing is. If there's an emergency, can I slip out of my car and have to hike 50 miles back home? Or if I'm going to have to run, or any of these practical things. And so the further away from home you get, even if you can't dress the part, at least bring shoes and coats and hats just in case, because it's one of these things, it's probably not going to happen to anybody, but you just never know. And it's much better to kind of run through these scenarios mentally and emotionally before they happen, because I'm going to promise you, in a crisis, you're going to be shaking and flustered, and you're not going to be able to tie shoelaces and make good decisions. So it's going to be infinitely more practical if the only decision you have to make is to just open the car door and run. The last time I got my hair cut, totally whacked off like this, I was in the mountains in California, and she had cut, someone was here and she cut this part off. I remember it was 1 o'clock and she got the phone call saying, the mountain's on fire. And we both are looking in the mirror, and I got long hair here and I got short hair here. What do you do? And God bless her, she finished cutting my hair. She'd lived there longer than me. I was still new to living in the mountains. But I went home and I panicked, and I left my sliding door open. I left windows open. I didn't bring things that I needed to bring with me. I was highly ill prepared. And I will tell you, even now, even though I have all the resources for my just walk away moment, they're disorganized because I never feel like it. So part of my getting ready and sharing this with you is that the time has come. There's no more, I don't feel like it. There is now. And so with that, I've run on kind of long. We're just going to take a deep breath. Lots to think about, but most importantly, think about it in a very practical way, because you never know every time you leave the house what's going to happen. So with that, deep breath, and I will see you next time.